Hello guys! Welcome back to Not Just Mecha! It's Marco here, and today we start working on the huge Skaven Tide box. The plan for the next few weeks is to paint the whole thing, or at least a consistent chunk of it, with a gaming-friendly but extremely rewarding high-quality speed painting attitude, switching factions, themes and styles in every video, to give you a bunch of inspiring ideas and cover every possible taste and technical need, always with a focus on speed and efficiency.
And we start with the Skaven side and the mean-looking Clawlord on No Beast. Here I wanted to explore a clean, highly rendered, a bit old-school illustrational style. Because, well, I was simply in the mood for that. And because it fits extremely well a main central hero, constantly under the spotlight. When painting armies, I always tend to start the work from the main characters and heroes, because I'm at the peak of inspiration, energy and hype for the project. So I'm sure they get my highest attention and the best possible general treatment. I always start with in mind a plan for the steps, trying to maximize efficiency from the conceptual stage. But it's the work on the heroes that really solidifies and refines those core ideas, because it makes me understand where and how I can cut corners and simplify even more my renderings. I personally find easier reasoning about subtractions from a core foundational process. And as a sub-product, I get main characters with naturally a lot of extra richness and details. After priming, I jump to sketching the general mood and tones. Around this stage, you often heard me talk about value sketching, or colored value sketching. But even if these steps may look a bit like that, here the intent is completely different. I'm not trying to render a super complex light setting, or a story-heavy display vignette, so I don't really feel the need of an underpainting able to inform me of that stuff. Here, the objective is to quickly fix the main tones, and a bunch of fast, overlapped chromatic richness. Still, you know that grounding models in an environment, slash, if you want to simplify the concept, the theme of their own base, is always super important for me. So the core of these slapping colors is still based on that idea. That, in this case, takes the form of cold blue shadows, opposed and contrasting with warm lights. The whole trick to get this high contrast, exponential visual richness is to keep visible a bit of the previous stages after every new application. And you can easily see that a proper value progression is not my priority at the moment, from the fact that these colors are not crazily different in terms of luminosity. So I'm not really increasing lighten values, but more introducing different colors and tones that speak about inflamed monster flesh and Skaven heraldry. That's also why I can use paints straight from the bottle, with zero adjustments. Because again, they are only a colored vibe that later I'm going to refine, making everything more precise and specific to the character and the vision of it I have in mind. This attitude also makes the work extremely quick and relaxed, because precision is definitely not super important here, kind of optional, making this flow also a great training ground for your airbrushing. Dissonant colors and chromatic accents, like the Warpstone bits, are another great example of my focus on tones and hues. Because on those, I simply overlap a powerful green over whatever local base I have in that spot. Having access to super covering opaque paints is a great advantage here, because every application is completely solved with just one or two quick puffs of the airbrush. But in the last stages, I also take advantage of the semi-opacity of an opaque ink to let the rich underpainting show through the large upper surfaces of the light skins, like real skin, with blood and blood vessels underneath. And back to full opacity for the foundational work on the ground. And the few non-metallic gold bronze bits of the base. This is the major twist on classic sketching and layered speed painting. Now that I have the building blocks of my scheme, with some built-in rich chromatic flow, I'm going to make those shades exponentially deeper and more substantial, while at the same time fixing, or better, introducing proper values. And the process starts blocking the highest values of the top lights with white ink. I'm going for a simple, wargaming-friendly zenithal light that will make the model work in every possible light condition, angle or gaming table. So, from the top, I stay perpendicular to the base, and the high points automatically get more paint, while the fake light naturally and progressively loses coverage and power in the lower parts. And with my peaks, highs and medium highs in place, the work of setting a colored value sketch now consists of establishing and enhancing low midtones and shadows. The main technical trick here lies in the use of highly saturated, transparent paints, like inks or even GW contrast or similar products, that can easily work over and merge with the previous applications, without hiding any part of the base work. Their translucency used for this kind of overlap lets them optically mix with all the colors underneath, exponentially increasing the number of tones and shades, as well as their fluidity and smoothness, while also increasing the saturation of everything. That, before this step, was very subdued because of the chalky nature of super opaque paints and their dotty atomization through the airbrush. And all this in a single pass. And if you were worried about the many changes of colors in the airbrush, it's difficult to see in these edited videos, and much clearer in my live painting on Twitch. But I'm really quick and loose with my color changes, because for the sake of the chromatic richness and the natural flowy flow we were talking about, I really don't mind some contamination in the cup, and my swaps are just made of unloading the previous tone, a quick rinse with water or a bit of cleaner, and loading the new one straight from the bottle. If you are paying attention, you probably already noticed that the colors I'm using here are simply the same as the first opaque run. Again, the work of this stage is about sharpening and enhancing, more than adding stuff. That's kind of a lovely, free sub-product of the transparency of the paint. But really, I'm not intentionally adding anything more than a better, more defined and more high contrast flow of values. That's why I close by applying the same blue note I started with. The use of oil paints at this stage is just the natural consequence of this workflow, and all the ideas we talked about until this point. Now I have a value and chromatic spectrum that covers everything from the highest points to the low mids, but I don't have the extreme lows, that, as you can tell from the colors on the palette, will be introduced by this step, that shares the same philosophy of being very loose, super quick and crazily forgiving. That's the main idea, but for the intrinsic nature and natural behavior of oils, you also get a couple of interesting extra effects and advantages. Good oils have an extreme concentration of extremely fine pigments that, when applied in this fluid form, and super important, without any varnish underneath, permeate into the acrylic layer, filling every microscopic gap between the microdots of atomized paint applied by the airbrush, creating a perfect smoothness and the ultimate continuity between all the different paints. And you can be painterly and loose, because you can always fix stuff and remove the excess of paint at any point. Sure, you have to take in account the darkening effect of this kind of merging and mixing, keeping the sketch a bit more on the high value side. But if you are careful with this, all the rest is a walk in the park. And you get access to this kind of cool automatic effects, simply letting the paint run into the details. To answer one of the most asked questions around here, yes, you can use acrylics over oils. When fully cured, even a super thick layer of oil paint can be a base for grubby modern acrylics. But in this particular case, because of all the white spirit used to turn the thick paint into a wash, and the active cleaning stage, there's basically no oil anywhere except maybe in the deepest recesses. And even then, it's in a such super lean form that makes it dry in a matter of minutes. And as you can see, with a very matte finish, because again, pigments are really the only thing that is left on the surface, not oil. And if you still have doubts, well, I'm doing it in front of your eyes without waiting more than setting up the wet palette. As always in this stage, I use just a handful of colors, that then I mix on the palette to get all the intermediates I need. Mixing versus using colors straight from the bottle is a big debate in army and speed painting, and I personally think that there's space for both in the right moments and the right ways. You saw that in the initial foundational stages, I don't mix anything, because I really don't need any crazy specificity when it comes to setting a general cold blue shadow, a basic red for the armor, or a green for the warpstone. But when I arrive to details and sharpness, I become way more picky, and I want my color choices to be more detailed, precise and faithful to my vision. And I can assure you, mixing a few subtle shades on the palette is way faster than looking in a drawer and setting on the palette that particular shade you need, maybe only for a brushstroke or two, and of course, more cost-effective. As you can see from my workflows, I prefer to have multiple small collections of very different kinds of paints, with very different useful properties, than one huge collection of the same stuff. And this was true even at the peak of my army painting commission work. But you are here for that focus on speed and efficiency, so let's make the point on that. With all my paints pre-planned and pre-prepared in front of me, the phone turned off and the study door closed, all the work before the wet palette took me a little more than 1 hour. As often happens, there's a lot to explain, but not a lot that has to be practically done. And working on troopers with the same scheme, I would probably cut the black priming, the candy pink on the skin, the turquoise on the silver non-metal, just using the initial blue as a base, and the magenta ink transition. Of course, with also the extra advantage of using the same step on multiple models at the same time, that increases the speed exponentially. The palette stage is the indulgent part of the work, and the most forgiving in terms of mandatory technical needs that, for the most part, have been resolved by the previous loosey-goosey, but technically extremely solid and well-planned stages. So, basically, arrived at this point, you decide when enough is enough. I like my personal gaming models and heroes in particular to be highly rendered and have a very high density of brushstrokes. I would never suggest this approach for display painting. That is, for the most part, a subtle game of controlling focus, focal points, attention, and literally the eyes of the viewer through different levels and qualities of renders. But for gaming models that will be constantly moving and placed and viewed in every possible angle, I like to have every shot well covered in information. But again, the beauty of this workflow is that at whatever point you decide to stop, you get something that looks good. And if you play it smart, introducing a lot of details doesn't necessarily mean more work. Think about a GW Box Art Space Marine. That style is the peak of simplification, and what it retains to make a model work from the distance of the table are a few core tones and well-defined contours and edges. With a similar philosophy, I start from the outside of the main shapes and elements, and then, time permitting, I move to render more and more the insides, that are basically more and more icing on an already perfectly good cake. And that also explains the light value pastel tones I chose for this stage, that are basically all in the territory of my high and highest lights. This small pool and its general coherency of values and tones let me move super quickly around the model, simply changing brushstrokes for the different materials. And here is the final result. Skaven are one of my favorite races and factions ever, and actually, the very first I seriously played in my first serious dive into wargaming with Mordheim. So I lost myself in the lovely flow of the work, and lost track of the time passing, and ended up investing almost 3 hours on this little guy. But I was already at this stage at about 2, and the extra time has been more personal fun than actual need. And next time, Stormcast, but painted in what way?
If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe. Remember that you can ask me anything down below with a comment, you can follow my projects during the week using one of my socials, or watch me painting live on Twitch. Check the schedule of the streams on the Twitch homepage. And if you want to support my work, check my Patreon page and join the community, or maybe ask for a commission. See you next week, guys!